From the half-full pizza box that is the DJC Collectibles Studio, I'm Midwest professional wrestling legend, Gage Octane. And now, here's a guy who gave the thin crust ham and pineapple from Domino's a rating of 2 out of 5 slices. Kyle Peterson.
What is happening, everybody? Kyle here, back again with another episode of the Kyle Peterson Show, and as usual, joined by my wife, Angie. Angie, say hello.
Hello.
Hello, Angie. Thank you for coming back for another episode of course, the Kyle Peterson Show. And Angie, this is our 4th episode. Episode number 4. We've beat the curve. Most podcasts, I have researched this, and most podcasts last 3 episodes. This is our 4th episode. So we had a good run. We beat the usual one. No, we'll see. But of course, we are in episode number 4. Thanks to everybody that's been watching and listening to the podcast. People rating, reviewing, all that fun stuff. We really appreciate it, right, Angie?
Yes.
Angie appreciates it the most. Angie's been signing autographs at the grocery store lately. It's been a wild time for her. A little dose of fame instead of just having me do it all. Angie's doing a lot of the hard work right here. But first, before we get into stuff, let's get into a little bit of housekeeping here. I wanted to say to everybody, thank you for the brand new book that is hitting stores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble as we speak. Hardcover, softcover edition available. It is a complete guide to the ECW Original San Francisco Toy Makers by yours truly. And if you do want an autographed copy from me, you can reach out to me, the KylePetersonShow@gmail.com, social media, whatever you want to do. And if you do buy one from me, I do have a special bookmark. I can autograph, do whatever you want. Also, while supplies last, Kyle Peterson Show sticker. So appreciate the support over there.
Gotta plug it. No one else will.
I was going to say that. Angie, you know why I got to plug the book? Because nobody else will. I
love stealing your lines.
You do. You always jump in and steal my lines. But Angie has even signed a book or two along the way, and my dad. So reach out if you want him to. And I have a whole stack of books coming tomorrow as I'm filming this. So I'll have a lot of those for sale. I'm sure I'll put a post up on social media, of course, the usual social media outlets. So thanks, everybody, for that. Also want to plug YouTube channel memberships, a new entry into what we do right here. There is a YouTube memberships. If Patreon's not for you for whatever reason, you can check out the YouTube memberships, and you can support the channel that way. You get early access to this audio video cast much earlier than traditional YouTube, I guess. You also get early access to all the videos I do as well. So another way to support the channel if that is your thing. And one way that really supports the channel, Angie, I am told, is by rating and reviewing the podcast. And I wanted to give a special shout out to 2 people that have rated the podcast on Apple there. So I figured I'd read the reviews here. And Angie doesn't even know anything about this, but I'll read the review here. It comes from Scott Stokes 01. Favorite toy podcast, 5 stars. How about that? Couldn't give 6, apparently. Couldn't give 10. It's a 5-star rating. But I encourage everybody to rate and review the podcast. And we'll read your message here on here. But it does say, Kyle and his wife, Angie, the modern Macho Man and Elizabeth, are such a fun couple and equally support collecting toys and share stories along the way. This show is equally fun to watch on YouTube or 4 daily videos and thousands of figure reviews Kyle has done over the years. Give them 1 episode and you'll be hooked. 1 piece of bread at a time or a loaf you will enjoy. Oh, shout out right there. So shout out to Scott Stokes.
It's like we paid him to put
It's like we paid him to put that in there.
That's a nice one.
No, that was good. So thank you, Scott. And then we also got another one here from Big Tasty Z. Big Tasty Z, my new favorite podcast. Conspiracy? No. Kyle Peterson now has a podcast and I love it. Oh, and Angie too. She is there. Ask her a question. Exactly. And if you want to be the question of the week, ask it to Angie. We'll have a question of the week here on the podcast. And Angie will run through that as well. But a lot of housekeeping to start off the podcast here, Angie. But a lot going on as well. Like I said, this is our 4th episode. Can't believe it. Made it 4 episodes. And Angie, a little follow-up from last week's video and audio podcast, of course, wherever you like it, audio or video. Could be we could have faces for audio or we could have faces for video. You make the choice. But last week we had a big WrestleMania bet.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, so we went through the card at the time and we said who's going to win and all that kind of fun stuff. And we're each going to have a little bet. And Angie, what is your bet for me if you win?
Warrior costume. You got to ride in the neighborhood on your electric bike.
Yep, I got to wear the Ultimate Warrior costume, which is no big deal. I usually wear it every week anyway. I will wear the Ultimate Warrior costume. I'm surprised you didn't say do the videocast podcast in the Warrior costume. Maybe do that too. But and I've decided, Angie, you're going to have to wear a special outfit that will be TPD when we win. So either way, next week's podcast, we should have an answer to this. So you'll either get to see me Or you'll see Angie in her outfit. Are you ready for this?
No. It's
No.
gonna be inappropriate.
Oh, it'll be totally appropriate.
I don't got my summer body ready yet.
Nobody's going to complain. Nobody's going to complain. I think you'll be fine, though. I think you'll be fine. So that will be an update next week. Stay tuned to that. And if you missed last week or the first episode podcast, check those out, of course. Last piece of little bit of housekeeping right here, Angie. This week was spring cleanup. And I don't know if your guys' neighborhoods have things like this where you get to clean up anything you don't want in your house anymore. Maybe you got an old grill, a barbecue grill. You don't want it. Stick it out on the curb. You got a broken chair, stick it on the curb. You got old doll houses, guess what? Stick it on the curb. You got a pallet sitting around your garage, stick it on the curb. What else do we got? Flower pots, just random garbage, tables, chairs, deck seating. You get the point by now, I think. Angie, you think they get the point? Okay, they get the point. But you can stick anything on the curb. So I spent my Sunday doing a lot of that. And of course, I was a hardworking man, out there on Sunday. Angie was sitting with her feet up. I think you were having an Arnold Palmer, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what you were drinking. Maybe not. Angie was at work, but I was cleaning up, moving some things around, getting ready for spring, doing spring cleanup. And I had quite the disaster as I had an old man fall.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
It sounds like you were taking a break, not working when
I
you fell.
I was. And that's the sad thing is I got all this stuff.
What you get for sitting down?
I got all this stuff moved. I got everything cleaned up, got everything moving away. And then I went and sat in this chair that you had to have many years ago that I bought. It's like one of those basket chairs that like hangs and sits.
It's like an egg and it swings. It's on a hook.
Yeah. So I said, you know what, boy, I've had a long day. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna sit down for a second and just take a little break.
Take a load off.
Take a little load off. Take a siesta. That's what I was gonna do. And I sat in that chair.
I can't stop laughing.
And you weren't even there. Luckily, I don't think anybody saw this. Thankfully.
If only we had the cameras on
Oh
the
my
back
gosh!
of the house.
But I sit down in this chair and it immediately goes backwards. On me. It just immediately, and it was like the slowest motion ever, and it just goes back slow, and then bam! I hit my head on the. There's like a nice circle crossbar around there, and then I hit my head on the concrete after that. Hit my elbow, and I was just down for the count. But it hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad. I didn't cry. It didn't hurt that bad. But
oh my gosh. Big back behavior.
I guess. Well,
I'm not sure.
I fell back and I was just looking at the sky and I said, man, the sky's beautiful today.
You're
That's
just
what I
questioning
said.
all your
Just questioning life and just staring at it there. And I'm like, I hope the neighbors aren't looking out their windows at me right here. And I don't think they were, but they probably were spying. They're always spying on you when you're walking around the bikini in the backyard in the summer around the pool.
You're spying on the neighbor.
No, I'm not spying on the neighbor.
Just kidding.
She's I don't know. Story at 11 on that. I don't know. But where was I? Now I've lost my train of thought. But I fell. I'm staring at the sky. But man, I banged up my elbow. So my elbow hurts, of course. Oh, my poor elbow. And I don't know what's worse is like there was a cross member and it's kind of curved.
Yes.
And I have a bruise like knot on the back of my head that goes from like the middle of my ear all the way around my head to the other middle of the ear. The exact size of the pipe. And it's just like, very sore, very tender.
Yes.
I might need a massage.
I was
later.
waking you up every 30 minutes at night.
You were
just truly concussed.
You were waking me up for other reasons. I know what you were up to. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm concussed. I don't think so. But
so much junk.
I'm just lucky to be here. Lucky to be here after spring cleanup. You know, you got to crack a couple of eggs, crack a couple of brains along the way. Yeah. So that's the way it goes. But we got one last thing before we get into our first segment here. I just got this. I was just down in Missouri. And as they say, Angie, Missouri loves company, as we do know. I was just down there for work. And I was watching the news. And, you know, you get directed messages on your phone. I don't know if you guys do. But now all of my phone messages, like all my ads and stuff, are best places to eat in Kansas City. Best barbecue in Kansas City. Hole in the wall stuff. So I'm getting all these like Kansas City directed stuff at me. And now that I'm not in Kansas City anymore. And as I'm filming this tomorrow, I head to the beautiful state of Nebraska. Nebraska, I'm coming for you. Going to be in Omaha and Lincoln for a couple of days hanging out. And anybody got any good recommendations for Lincoln? I guess it's too late for food recommendations for Lincoln. I felt like I went to a really good pizza place one time, but story at 11 once again, I guess. But speaking of story at 11, I got a little news clip here and I'm going to play a little brief clip of it right now.
Oh my gosh.
A 70-year-old Winfield woman investigators say may have fostered more than 200 children is facing charges related to child abuse in Lincoln County.
Prosecutors are looking into an allegation that she offered to trade one child for a monkey.
And quite the story that you could only get from Missouri, apparently, with this one here. And as they say, of course, Missouri loves company, but
they like a lot of company.
Apparently like a lot of company. You're exactly right. It's always crazy when you hear of these people that adopt kids. They always have like 200 kids they have adopted, and really feels like at the end of the day, they're scamming the system. They're working the taxpayer monies and stuff. They don't like these kids.
These poor kids.
Yeah, these poor kids. Who knows what's going on? They said they were beating them with like door trim and stuff. Just wild times. Missouri, what are we doing down there? What are we doing in Missouri? Hate to call out Missouri like this because they love company and I come there all the time. But I couldn't believe this article when I saw it. And first thing I said is, who wouldn't want to trade a kid for a monkey, first off?
I mean, you haven't.
I've thought about it for sure. And it's funny, as my grandma always used to tell me, is my great-grandpa was a huge fan of wrestling, and he was a huge fan of monkeys and wanted a pet monkey so bad. And he would always tell my grandma when she was a little kid that he wanted a pet monkey, And apparently that came into me many years later. And
You've truly been reincarnated.
I was. He died, though, when I was like 1 year old. But maybe he came inside of me. Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he came inside me. I don't know what happened there, but Angie's dying. Angie's dying of laughter. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna pee.
But back.
Okay.
Get yourself together, woman.
Okay.
Me and my jokes. That wasn't even a purposeful joke.
I know.
She laughed harder at the unpurposeful joke. But absolutely wild. So this lady apparently trades this and it wasn't like a 3-year-old kid or something. It was like a teenager. So it's almost like slavery at this point, because I think she said, hey, I'll trade this monkey for this human and she'll do all the chores around your house. I think is what happened there. But apparently the kid didn't get food and stuff. They said in the article that like the kid was telling everybody at school and all this stuff that, hey, this is what's going on. And nobody cared. Nobody talked about it. So child left behind, apparently, is what happened there. And just a crazy story, but to trade for a monkey is a wild move. And I believe I'm not mistaken. There was that like chimp crazy show we watched on Netflix at one time. And it was I think that was in Missouri too. She had all these like primates and stuff, and she was hiding them in her house and stuff. So it truly is the wild, wild west down there in Missouri. Just a wild time, but being able to trade for a monkey, just absolutely crazy. So now where is the monkey now? Where's the kid now? Nobody knows, but man, that's a wild story from Missouri. And Missouri is full of wild stories. I remember one time, Angie, I don't know if I ever told you this story. Once upon a time, and it was probably 12 years ago, is probably when this happened. We had a sales meeting down in the Lake of the Ozarks. So it's, we're going to take you guys down there. We're going to have a meeting on the lake and, lake life and all that stuff. So it was nice. It was nice company to take us all down there and stuff. So we went down there. I went with my boss at the time, Larry, of course, salt of the earth, Larry, long retired at this point. But Larry and I drove down there, and we stopped at like a convenience store. And it wasn't like a normal convenience store. It was one of those like mom and pop convenience stores down in the hills.
Like a Buc-ee's type place? Or
No. It was like a mom and pop one. It was like Bob's C-Store or something like that. But it was just like something out of a movie, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. But we're down there, and man, those Ozarks too, I'll never forget. I was getting kind of car sick because Larry was senior man. He'd always drive, but it was like hills like this. There was this one stretch that was just like up and down, up and down. I was like, yuck. I'm going to puke all over Larry's dash. But didn't have to do that, thankfully. But we stopped there, and I'll never forget. I was in there. I was probably getting beef jerky and a Diet Mountain Dew. That's the perfect road snack right there. And I think Larry was probably getting a dip and probably a black coffee. That was his. I was Diet Mountain Dew. I was Diet Mountain Dew and a beef jerky. He'd get some chewing tobacco, and he would get a black coffee. I think that's what he would end up getting. But that's tale of different generations, I guess is what that is. I was the wild and crazy guy. But we stopped in there, and I'll never forget, like, the people in there. I mean, this was like deep down in the Ozarks somewhere. They were speaking like a different language. It was like, I could kind of understand it, but couldn't understand it. It was just a wild thing. It was like, it plays with your brain when you feel like you're understanding it, but you're not understanding it. So it was very, very strange, very, very wild. It was just a wild time. But that's Missouri for you, I guess, at the end of the day. It's a state of a lot of different arcs. I mean, you go between St. Louis and Kansas City, it's a whole different world between there. Then you go all the way to St. Joe, Missouri, and you're a whole different world there. And I was just recently in St. Joe, Missouri last week, too. Just playing all the hits in Missouri is what I was doing. And like I said, playing all the hits in Nebraska this week. But wanted to bring up a crazy story, a trade for a monkey. Who'd have thought?
Wild.
I don't know. But so more on that, I guess, as we receive it. We'll see what happens there. But now, Angie, it's time for our next segment. It's time for a deeper dive. All right, next segment here, it is a deeper dive where we dive into something a little bit deeper. Hence deeper dive. Angie, I'll dive deeper into you a little bit later. But right now we're here.
Like your grandpa dived into you.
After my grandpa. Great grandpa, thank you very much.
You.
That was my great grandpa, thank you.
Oh, my bad.
But we're doing the deeper dive here, and sometimes Angie's here for it, sometimes she's not. I said, Angie, you can stay for this deeper dive. It's an interesting one. As news broke this week, and Angie, you didn't see this, so you're going to hear it for the first time here. It was news from Walmart, and you know you're familiar with Walmart. You've been there before. Walmart did put an announcement to people that pre-ordered the Killing Joke Joker figure and those that pre-ordered the Supergirl Page Puncher, of course, both by DC McFarlane Toys. And no Todd McFarlane here this week. He's downstairs on the couch. Of course, got Angie here in his place. But there was a news that came from Walmart that, sorry about your pre-order, it's been canceled as the tractor trailer that was hauling all this stuff
Oh, my gosh.
is missing, lost,
What?
disappeared. Aliens beamed it up into space. I'm not exactly sure what happened. No word yet what has happened with this product here, but apparently they had a semi-full, which first thing I thought of right there, being a guy in distribution and, of course, grocery stores, doing all that kind of stuff for many, many years. It was interesting to me that Walmart is saving money from McFarlane, as apparently Walmart is driving to McFarlane warehouses to pick up the product and take it back to their distribution network to funnel it out everywhere. There's two ways you can go with that. Obviously, Walmart's picking up at McFarlane. The other way is McFarlane gets it in their warehouse from the ports, the docks, whatever, sends that to Walmart distribution points, whatever. It's all a cost game there. So anyways, they've worked out something. So that's the way that business does go there. Now, first thing I thought of good friend Todd McFarlane down on the couch, he was probably doing a little bit of a backflip in a way. He was a little bit happy about this. He's never going to say he was happy about it. But at the end of the day, Walmart picks it up. It's their product. McFarlane at the dock says, thank you. That is all yours right now. It's no longer McFarlane. I've been paid. Walmart, enjoy it. Do whatever you want with it. It's hands off at this point. Unfortunately for Walmart, now they're left holding the bag. They're missing all this. They're disappointing customers left and right. Now, the grand scheme of the world, this isn't an absolute fortune or anything like that. But Todd McFarlane and his team sitting back saying, well, you want us to do another run of these figures for you? And I think Walmart's probably laying in the weeds right now saying, hopefully we can find this trailer. Hopefully something can happen. And you got to think, okay, somebody stole all this. Where does it go? Are they going to try to sell it? All of a sudden, this eBay store has 10 million Jokers, whatever the number may be, 10 million Supergirls, probably going to have a red flag. So I'm not sure how they get out from under this merchandise. If they destroy the merchandise, who stole this? If it was just some punk kid stealing it to throw it on fire. Not exactly sure. Obviously, I'm sure it'll figure itself out. They'll either find the trailer with stuff or they'll find out who's trying to sell this somewhere. But if somebody comes and offers you $5 Killing Joke Jokers, you probably know something's going up there. But
Wait, can the consumer go straight to McFarlane and buy these toys, or
no,
are they just Walmart?
So the hard part is, luckily, well, the Joker is is a Walmart exclusive. The Page Puncher Supergirl you can get other places. So immediately you have to imagine that Supergirl is going to jump up in value because now Walmart, one of the biggest chains in the world, lost all of their supply. That means GameStop, Target, local stores, DJC Collectibles, our good friend, use discount code 8OFF-DJC, of course. They will probably get some extra sales out of all this. So good for them, bad for Walmart. Have to imagine if it doesn't get resurrected soon, McFarlane will probably do another run because Walmart will pay them once again. And then in the grand scheme of things, you also got to remember there's probably insurance with Walmart. So yeah, it sucks all this happened. I'm sure they have insurance and all that kind of stuff, you have to imagine, which brings up a story for me, Angie. Way back, a long time ago when I was a Nabisco sales rep once upon a time. Now, I used to have one of the biggest Walmarts in the state, really. It was a big one. And I used to be there at 4:30 a.m. every single morning doing my stuff. But it was the holidays. And for the holidays in the grocery industry, obviously, that's the time you make the most money. Unfortunately for Nabisco, it wasn't a commission job, but you did get a bonus. You had a sales number you had to hit every month. If you hit that, you got a little bonus. Long story short, you're always hustling during the holidays. It's the busiest time. People need their Ritz. They need their wheat thins. They need their Triscuits. They need all that stuff. In Walmart, I usually had one pallet of back stock at all times. I had 3 or 4 trucks a week, so you had a lot of product coming in and going out of that store. But holidays, you had to have extra product in the back room just on the down days of the trucks. long story short, I had 3 pallets in the back of this Walmart store because it's the holidays. It's busy. And what happens, there was a big snowstorm or snow came down and it turned into ice or whatever. And the roof collapsed at the Walmart. The roof collapsed. And it collapsed only on a portion of the back room of the store. And bad for Walmart, great for me. It collapsed all over my pallets of product back there. So what happened there for old Kyle, I got a number I got to hit every month. I'm trying to hit that number for the holidays. What ended up happening is Walmart had to pay for all that product. I got to walk away not having to write credits or anything. Their insurance took care of all of it. The manager came to me and said, Kyle, refill those 3 pallets. So basically, I got free 3 pallets of product that moved off, hit my number, everything. Have to imagine that's similar to what McFarland is doing on this one here.
But then you were always chasing that number again. Every year it was haunting you.
So that is the thing, and that's the bad thing. And that's a story for another day, of course. And we could do that maybe in Tales from Retail one day. But it reminds me of that. So Walmart, obviously, their insurance will take care of everything there. But it's going to be very interesting to see the price, what happens with those 2 figures. The black market, will it be out there? The dark market, of course, of action figures, a dangerous place. I think it's down in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. We got that going on. But it also reminds me of a story. Once again, this could be Tales from Retail, but I'm going to tell it right now. Long time ago, when I was a kid, I was working, of course, in frozen food. I was a frozen food manager. Possibly, no possibly around it. I was the youngest youngest department manager ever in the history of this retail chain. So not to pat my back too much, of course. But there was a pizza driver, and he direct store delivery to my store, and he was a pizza guy, of frozen pizzas. And outside of a store, not my store, but one of our other chain stores, he left his truck out back behind the store, left the keys in it, left it running, ran inside. Well, when he came back out, guess what happened to that truck? It was missing, and they found it about 3 or 4 days later at an amusement park in town. It was on its side. And this was a DSD pizza company that had a bunch of old ladies in a town that made all this frozen pizza. And they'd make all the pizzas to load the truck for the week. Then he'd go grocery store to grocery store to sell it. Maybe Emma's favorite pizza place, if you know what that is.
Yes.
So little tip there. If you know my daughter Emma's favorite pizza, you'll know what the company is. But they found it and they opened it up. And how many pizzas do you think were in there? 0 pizzas. Somebody took the whole pizza for the whole week.
Why was it on its side?
I don't know, but thousands of pizzas were gone out of there, and there was no getting it back, and that poor company was out of business there for a whole week. But once again, I think insurance took care of them, or maybe they didn't. I don't know, but interesting to make note. Like I said, just keep an eye out there. If you see any black market Supergirls or Jokers, you let me know so I can call Todd from the couch downstairs and let him know. But it is, nobody's going to say it, but McFarland Toys probably a little happy about this because, hey, they'll get to make a rerun. They'll make some more money. If not, I guess we'll see where it goes. And these 2 could be very expensive figures in the future. So there it is, Angie. That's the deeper dive, but now Angie gets to shine. She's got a new food to bring for us. So we got to try new foods because it might taste good.
Try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. We gotta try new food because they might taste good.
All right, it's time to try new foods because they might taste good. And Angie, you're here. You found us something special here today.
Sargento cheese bakes.
Sargento cheese bakes. And did you know this is another story time for Kyle, a guy full of stories, of course. Once upon a time, many years ago when I got out of college, I started working for a brokerage company in the grocery industry. And one of the brands I represented, guess what?
What?
Sargento. Can you believe that? I used to represent Sargento, so I used to sell their cheese all over the place once upon a time, in a former life, of course. And the very interesting plot twist with this one right here, Sargento, these chips right here that we're going to try, 3 varieties, and Angie's going to run it through us here in a second. These are made by the Mondelez Corporation, of course, formerly Nabisco, and I worked over there for 10 years. So it's like 2 of my former worlds kind of coming together in a new snack. And a funny thing about these is I tried these many moons ago, actually. I don't remember the taste of them, so it's going to be fresh here. But I tried them at a food show, and I do go to a couple of food shows a year, of course. It's no different than San Diego Comic-Con, but it's for food. It's very exciting, let me tell you.
Free snacks.
You do, and you gain a couple of pounds there because you're trying everything there. But I was by the Nabisco guys, Mondelez guys, hard to break that habit, of course, and tried a few of these. So very interesting to see this one together, but it's all about synergy between these companies. Of course, Sargento trying to get their name out there with Mondelez, which is very interesting too. A little business hat talk here, of course. Kraft used to own Mondelez. Of course, everybody knows Kraft from Kraft cheeses. So it tells you that they've split companies, but they're not even talking anymore if Sargento's getting involved right here. And Sargento growing cheese company, of course, not a super household name, but getting closer every day, I will say. But we got 3 new snacks. These are to compete with Cheez-Its. Everybody likes Cheez-Its except me. I think they taste too burned to me, but either or, these are new snacks. Angie, start us with the first one. Tell us what it is.
Oh gosh, what do we got?
Pull it off there. Open it up.
We got Parmesan and oregano. Can we open it now?
Parmesan, oregano.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Need some
Is
help
there a
here?
trick or is it just a pull?
I don't know.
Go and pull and go.
There we go. All right, Parmesan, oregano.
Woo,
Now,
smell that oregano.
I love myself some Parmesan.
Love Parmesan. The oregano's strong though.
Yeah, it's very strong. Very strong, Angie.
Well, we're kind of wuss. We don't.
So they almost remind you of an air crisp type thing.
We're not too herby of.
Angie loves
We
the
don't
herb.
usually put
Angie
too
loves
many-
the herb. I don't. I don't like the herb. She's very herby.
3,
All
2,
right,
1,
try
go.
it. Hard. I thought they were going to be fluffier.
The Parmesan like tastes good quality. Like it's like sharp. It's got a little bit of a.
I'm a bit of a cheese connoisseur, and I like my cheese really sharp.
It's good. Right away, said it.
Just put it on the floor somewhere. Just dump it on the floor. The dogs or rats will get it.
All right, now we got aged white cheddar and rosemary.
Now we're gonna rate these out of a 5. Do we want to do that one first, the Parmesan? I guess let's try them all.
I
We'll try.
don't know. I gotta say what's better than
Yeah.
what. Here you go.
But it was good. I mean, it's a very crispy. I thought it was gonna be an airy. It has an airy look to it.
Mm-hmm.
What is this one?
Aged white cheddar and rosemary.
I don't know. I like these cheddars. I don't know about the rosemary, but let's go.
Does it taste different?
It doesn't have much of a taste to me.
The other one's better.
The other one, Parmesan, one of the best cheeses.
Yeah, it's just I can't even taste the rosemary. Yes, this is very subtle.
Yeah, it's very. I don't even know what rosemary tastes like. If somebody said, "Kyle, what's rosemary taste like?" I would never be able to tell you.
I think I'm getting the rosemary at the end there. But
What is it?
it's that one weird looking herb with the spikies on it.
Is it like a rose?
I don't know.
It does say, since 1953, our family has stood for real natural cheese, and now we partner with the baking experts at Nabisco to transform that passion into a delightfully crunchy, deliciously cheesy cracker. Lou and Louie Gentine, second, third generation Sargento owners. Just 2 guys, truly salt of the earth. So, aged white cheddar didn't do a whole lot for me.
Last one's pepper jack, which is the one I was looking forward to the most.
Really?
I love pepper jack.
It's
cheese.
not.
And
They all smell the same to me,
and
and I can't really
this
smell.
one's not going to be herby, hopefully.
All right. Very easy for me. The first one with the Parmesan is by far the best.
Me too.
Second one is going to be this one,
Yep.
the pepper jack. Third is the aged white cheddar and rosemary. It does have a little, I don't even know if I can call it a kick. Pepper jack doesn't really have a kick,
It's
but
not spicy.
there is a little taste to it, but definitely interesting. Definitely a lot harder. I was expecting a nice softer chip, and I think I maybe would have preferred a softer chip. I don't know. But they're very crunchy, very hard. A little bit airy in the middle, but not terribly airy. But out of 3,
They got a pretty high price point too, though.
oh yeah, what was the price?
I think they did mark them down on sale, but I think they're like $3.99 or $4.99.
And it's
for a
only
bag.
4.5 ounces a
Like a
bag.
small
So it's really for, I don't know, people in Missouri, I think, is what will enjoy this. So shout out to Missouri this month.
It's
I
your
don't know.
monkey food.
I don't know. But yeah, it's a little pricey. It's tough. In this day and age, too, price sells cars. And it's going to be tough to knock over the Cheez-Its. Be interested to see if these do last. As we've talked before on the channel, about 85 or 95% of brand new items usually fail. So these could be one of those things. You might end up seeing these at a Dollar General or a Dollar Tree for $1 a bag in the future. You could. It happens. I hate to say it. I don't work for the company anymore, but I hate to say it there. But Angie, if you had to rate each one of these out of 5, what would you do?
Well, the first one
Parmesan.
was the best.
So I'm going to go,
The Parmesan and the oregano was the best. I don't know.
if I rank it against like a chip or a snack or something like that, I'm going to give it a high 3 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good. But I really like Parmesan. Like all my frozen pizza, I like a lot of Parmesan on there. I love Parmesan just raw. I'm a Parmesan guy. So high 3 out of 5. You?
I'll do 3.5.
3.5 out of 5. Now we go to this aged white cheddar and rosemary. What do you give this out of a 5?
2.5.
I give it a 1. A 1 out of 5. Doesn't do anything for me. It's edible. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not worth the price point for this one. The other two are way better than that. And then the last one was Pepper Jack and...
Yeah, Pepper Jack will give a 3.
Pepper Jack and Monkey. Is that what this one was?
Yep.
Nope, just straight Pepper Jack. Yeah, Pepper Jack, I'll give it a middle 3. A middle 3 on these. So I like these, but boy, there's not a lot. You could put all 3 of these bags together, and it would fit in one of these bags. Of course,
didn't you give that a 3.5?
I give it a high 3.
Oh, okay.
So like a high 3, a 3.5, and then a 1.
Okay.
But you can fit all 3 of these into one of these bags. It's that game of air. I mean, look at that. It's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And I blame Frito-Lay for that. We pay for more air than we pay for the actual product there. So
there's a reason. The air is like contaminated in there to keep for freshness. It's got like chemicals in it.
Yes, I don't know. So there it is.
Chemical air.
That is the, it might taste good this week. I don't know. It tasted okay. I don't know if we'd ever buy them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
It's no Dubai chocolate. We never bought that again either there. So we'll see. We'll see what Angie can find next week. Who knows? Angie, somebody requested maybe we try some fancy foods like empanadas and stuff. So I don't know if we want Angie in the kitchen and she could make us up something. I don't know. But kind of trying to dive it more towards snack food. But we'll see what's out there, what's new on the market, and we'll see what happens.
We'll try some pickle lemonade from Popeyes.
That, I don't know. You tried the pickle sandwich. Maybe that's one we could talk about there. But there it is. Try new foods because it might taste good. Angie, now it's time for the figure of the week. All right, it's time for figure of the week. And one of these weeks, Angie, we're going to have you pull the figure of the week out, and you're going to surprise me.
I don't have a figure.
You don't have it? You're not prepared? You're just here for the ride. You're here to smile and look good. So there you go. But today, we're doing figure of the week, and we're going back to one from a couple of years ago. This one came a part of maybe the infancy of my YouTube channel, which maybe you're watching this video on. Maybe you aren't. Maybe you're listening to audio. Either way is fine by me. But this is something I felt like I was the last person in the world to finally receive. I had a lot of videos on the channel waiting and waiting. A lot of times where I thought it was coming and it wasn't. We did a lot of talk about this one.
No, I know.
I even took this figure to go visit Santa Claus, and he sat with Santa and he talked all about this. Who are we talking about? Figure of the week this week, HasLab Marvel Legends Sentinel. Oh, the Sentinel is here. And I'm a kid of the 90s. Of course, Sentinel's been along a lot longer than that, but that's where I cut my teeth in my X-Men fandom, and I'll never forget the Sentinel's part of the X-Men animated series. Somebody pour one out for Morph, and I'm speaking a different language to Angie right now. She don't even know what I'm talking about. But I love the Sentinels. I bought 3 of these in my collection. A lot of fun to have here, and there is a new version of the Sentinel coming later this year. It's not quite a HasLab, but went up for a month for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse. But the more Sentinels, the better. I love these big robots. I love this one. A statement piece in my Marvel Legends room. And like I said, I even took him to see Santa. And you remember this one, of course.
Lots of cute videos of the kids.
Yes, way back when. Videos. Yep. And just waiting for the Sentinel. I don't know what the heck took so long for my Sentinel to come, but I'll never forget. Everybody seemingly got their Sentinels weeks before me. I swear I was the last Sentinel that was shipped for whatever reason. It was wild, and we'd have the door come, and I thought for sure it was a Sentinel. Had a huge box, and what was it? I remember one time I got back from a trip, and there was a huge box on the front step.
Oh, it was something for the kids.
No, I think it was like something from my work. It was like a bunch of product samples or something, but I remember
it was Elle's skateboard. Elle's longboard, I think, was one of them.
I don't know. There was a lot of those things like, oh, that's got to be the Sentinel, because a lot of people had it showing up without the tracking, so... Oh, it was just the tale of two worlds there.
Yeah, you'd think he was acting in those videos.
No, I was getting very hot. I was getting very hot about it. But here we are many years later, a centerpiece of my collection, a favorite of mine, one of my favorite possessions in my collection, Hasbro Sentinel, going to be the figure of the week.
Cutie. It's heavier than you'd think.
It is very heavy. It is,
It's right when you come in the house.
Right when you come in the house. One of the statement pieces you get to see. So a lot of fun with the Sentinels. So there it is, Angie. That's the figure of the week. Now we got to transition to your favorite and mine, stories from retail. All right, Angie, it's time for some stories from retail. This is where I go back over my 30-plus year career at this point in groceries. And every time people hear, Kyle, you've been around how long? Nobody understands that back in the day, kids started when they were 14, the day they turned 14 working. Now, we got a 14-year-old daughter. She's work. Are you kidding me? And I think that's most kids these days. But I had no choice to start at 14. And I have been in the grocery industry ever since I was 14 years old. Never time off. Never a lapse in employment. Really no 5 days off in a row ever either. I never get to take PTO. That's just part of the problem. Part of the problem. Or maybe it's the answer. I don't know. But either way, it's time for some stories for retail where we go back on some crazy stories over the years here. And Angie, feel free to chime in if you have any relation to this kind of story with your retail jobs over the years. I mean, you never know. You might know some stories along the way. But this week, we're going to talk a little bit about hazing. Yes, hazing. Not just for college fraternities anymore. It also happened at the grocery store. And I mentioned it earlier. I was a very young manager at the grocery chain I worked for, a major player grocery chain, a major one in the United States. Some say it's the best grocery store in the United States. I guess it's debatable, but USA Today said so, I guess. But worked for them once upon a time and now work with them every single day. So that's been a part of my story as well. But way back in the day of retail, it was the Wild Wild West. This is the mid-90s. Yes, the mid-90s, true Wild Wild West time. I was a very young manager there. I was the hip, cool manager. And some may say I'm still the hip, cool guy. Yeah, they could. They might. Somebody's saying it. But it was a lot of fun that I got to have the reins of running a department at an early age when I was still in high school. And I remember I got more money an hour. I got $16.50 an hour. And I told the manager, I said, hey, here's the deal. I don't need benefits. I'm under my dad's benefits. I just want more money. I'm getting ready to go to college here in a couple of years. And I worked there through college, all that kind of stuff. So long story short, I got some extra money. But I was the department manager for my own department. Man, I thought I was the man. And I probably was, in all honesty. I was the man. I even dyed my hair like Ric Flair once upon a time. And you've seen that picture with the bleach. I'm thinking about going back to that look too.
Insert it now.
There you go. But I was very cool and having a lot of fun there, of course. And it was the mid-90s. There's not all this HR stuff. You could do a lot of stuff. You could yell at people. You could slap people around if you needed to as well.
Truly a boys club.
Truly a boys club, like a Young Ween song back in the day. But I did have a lot of my friends that came and worked in my department. So it's always interesting when you manage your friends because they got to listen to you if they want to get paid. But sometimes it's like, it's Kyle. We're playing Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 this weekend or whatever. And I might have some stories about some of that in the future as well. But there was a lot of hazing of new employees. And I got to say, Angie, I was always nice, and especially to my friends and stuff. So the hazing that I did as a frozen food manager was pretty tame compared to everybody else. But I'll get into some of these every other else stories here in a second. But here was the rule that we had. If you were the low man on the totem pole, you were new, or if you were working, usually you had two people working in the department together at all times. The senior guy was in charge. So that makes a lot of sense, usually most of the time. But what I used to do was, if you were a brand new guy, here's what you had to do. You had to fill, remember the juice, the frozen juice used to come in the canisters back in the day? I don't even think they do that anymore. But way back in the day, there was 2 or 3 doors of different juices, like Minute Maid and all this stuff. And those were the worst to fill in the grocery store because they always rolled and fell out. And they would always, as you're filling your frozen stuff, it's on the sales floor. It's, defrosting right there. You'd have to get to it fast because it would start melting and leaking and get sticky and get all over you. So the new guy, whoever that was, until he was no longer the new guy, had to do those every single time we ran the truck. They had to do all those. They also had to do the strawberries and like the raspberries that were in the box. Because same kind of thing. Those things would melt and leak and all over. It was just a messy job. It was slimy. It was disgusting. And then, of course, the guy on the top of the totem pole got to do the Totino's pizzas because those were fun. There was a lot of cases of those. You felt like you got a lot done. You could pick out the whole case, put them in there. That's how it went. So that was about the hazing that we did. Obviously, we tricked each other into stuff. Sometimes we would do a box inside of a box inside of a box. Like I had to do backstock, and I'd get a big box, and I'd put another box, and put another box, and it's kind of like those Russian doll things.
Yeah.
Then you'd have one bag of like frozen peas at the bottom of it. So we do things like that every once in a while. And another trick I used to pull too, especially on some of my buddies, I would put a $5 bill sometimes like underneath a carton of ice cream or whatever. They're supposed to run the ice cream. And sometimes you come there like, you didn't run the ice cream. Nothing's been touched, nothing's been moved. So you'd have to yell at them. And I'd say, how I knew you didn't run the ice cream? No, $5 bill's still there. I think you would have took that $5 bill. And then they'd try to say, well, no, I didn't know if it was mine. Okay, I know how you guys go.
Just some good, clean fun.
Just some good old fun. But there was other crazy stories back there, and the produce guys were always pretty meaner over there. And I think one of the produce guys actually committed suicide over all this stuff. So take it down a notch here, of course. But they used to get the guys. There used to be these produce cooler carts. It was kind of like a long, skinny cart that they'd use for produce stuff. All the produce guys would grab the new guy. They'd hold him down on that cart, and they'd get that kind of like saran pallet wrap stuff.
Oh my
And they would wrap him in that thing so he couldn't get off the cart. So he stuck to the cart, and then they'd throw him in the freezer and turn the lights off, and they'd leave him in there for like a half hour. And he'd be screaming and yelling. Some of these young kids would cry and stuff, and some of them would tough it out and make it to another day.
To the freezer? Or
to the freezer.
Oh my gosh.
Which, yeah, I don't know. I was used to the freezer as a kid working in the freezer, but that was one of the big things the produce guys used to do. I remember they used to tell in grocery a lot of times, they would tell these young kids, hey, there's nothing to do, and they would just prank them. And they would say, hey, go mop the freezer. That was a big one, too. You get the hot mop, and you try to mop the freezer, and it sticks.
Oh, my gosh.
And kids would fall for that all the time. The other one people would do in the grocery was they would tell them, and you'd always see these kids doing it because it was the same jokes all the time. You just kind of watch and laugh and see alongside of it. But they would also say, hey, go get a bucket out of the, get the hose and fill a bucket up. We got to refill the drinking fountain. Refill the drink.
Oh my
so they get a
God.
bucket, they'd be pouring it in the top of the drinking fountain, thinking that refills it. And how gross would that be if it's just like a bucket and that's the water people are drinking? Ugh, disgusting. But they would have kids do that, of course. There was another one where the dairy man, it wasn't even dairy man, it was like dairy kids, like, oh yeah, the dry ice that used to come on the cold pallets. He'd say, hey, yeah, just go throw those in the toilet. And I don't know how many times the toilet would crack because they'd throw it in there. It was just wild. And we'd always have tons of dry ice and frozen, and we'd get them all together and we'd put them in kind of like the janitor's closet type thing. It's like a big sink. And we'd turn that water on. It would just, the whole back room would be all smoke and fog from the dry ice. And that was
Shenanigans.
Did you ever have anything like that in any of your jobs you ever did?
No.
Where you used to have to teach kids a lesson or anything, or like there was the new guy and all the girls would hit on him as a joke or anything? There was
Not really. Not that I can think of.
You never had any stories
Not
like
even crazy
that?
like that.
Nothing like that.
I'm nice.
You're nice. I was pretty nice too. We didn't do anything too hardcore over there. I think that's pretty light work having to do like.
I'd be whispering like, they're teasing you.
Yeah, you would. She's the one that gives away. You see this on the podcast and on the channel where she jumps ahead and gives my punchline out. She does the same thing. Like, I'll try to trick the kids on stuff, and she won't let it sit. We just did a figure hunt video a couple weeks ago where you guys all went to the bathroom. We're at a Walmart, and they all had a bunch of CDs and stuff they were buying, and they stuck it on the paper towels kind of by the door. They were going to go to the bathroom, and the kids, I was around the corner, I heard them say, well, if we put it here, the Walmart employee might find it and put it back. And obviously that's not going to happen in 30 seconds or whatever. But I heard all that, and I immediately said, oh, wait a minute. So I ran over there, I got all the stuff, and I hid it, and then I hid around the corner, and I filmed it. And Emma was just losing her mind right there, like, I told you, it's gone. And then Elle's like, I can't believe this. And they're like flipping out. And then Angie sees me on the corner. It was your dad, guys. It was your dad. Like, you couldn't let him sit and stew for a couple of minutes. That's what you got to do. You got to let him sit and stew. Just like my dad did on the aircraft carrier. We'll tell that story one of these days too. But Angie just gives the joke up right away. Let's let those kids have all the range of emotions. Let's let them run through it, and we want to see it. We want to see it on camera. So, a wild time, a little hazing, a little stories from retail. Once upon a time, Angie, got anything? Nothing. Couldn't think of one story.
No.
You lived a clean life at the old cheese mart, and the old country wagon, or whatever you were up to out in the country once upon a time. But there it is. That's Tales from Retail. Now it's time for the Album of the Week. All right, time for Album of the Week. And Album of the Week this week is one I forced Angie to listen to as we were driving down the road over the last week.
Lord.
And this came out late last year. It is Sweetheart of the Rodeo. That's where we're at in this day and age. Sweetheart of the Rodeo, 50th anniversary live concert. Of course, Sweetheart of the Rodeo, a Byrds album from way back in the day. Turn, 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 won't you, Angie? And we were listening to it, and I was like, this is like, just got your dad written all over. This is your dad's
You're
kind of
turning
music.
into my little Sweetheart of the Rodeo.
I am.
These shirts.
Western Kyle rides again. Been riding for a long time, that's for sure. But I really enjoyed this album as it was a live show with Roger McGuinn, of course, probably the most famous member of the Byrds. But he was also joined by Chris Hillman, but more importantly, Marty Stewart and his fabulous superlatives. I love Marty Stewart. Going way back when. The first concert my daughter Elle ever went to when she was like 6 months old was a Marty Stewart concert. You know, a lot of people think of Marty Stewart like the hillbilly rock and stuff. Some of that 90s kind of Travis Tritt country. It's okay. That's okay. But he's more of like a modern day, like the band. You guys know the band, the Weight, all that kind of stuff. He is just one of the greatest performers. The Superlatives, an amazing band. I love Marty Stewart. That's my kind of country music. I don't want any of that Brooks and Dunn. Get Reba and her fanciness out of here. Get all that kind of stuff out. I like things like Marty Stewart. But Marty Stewart playing this, and cool thing about Marty Stewart, one of the reasons he's invited is because he's kind of in that wheelhouse of the Byrds kind of music in some ways. But he also has Clarence White's guitar. It's his famous B-bender guitar he does play. Once upon a time was Clarence White's, of course, the guitarist for the Byrds, who did pass away. So it's a roundabout thing there, but a heck of a band to back up Roger McGuinn. Now, the first thing I noticed, I think I told you, Angie, in this, Roger McGuinn, his voice is rough. What is so funny?
The amount of stuff in your brain is wild.
It's all over the place.
It's wild. What did most people use? What, like 20% of their brain? You might use 40.
I use 99% of my brain. 99% of 40%, I think, is what I do.
God,
so I got a lot going on in there at all times. This is the things I think about during the day. I think of Marty Stewart taking over Clarence White's guitar and playing the B-bender guitar, which I've always wanted to play a B-bender, but they're hard to find, and it's a Telecaster. I love a Telecaster. Oh my gosh, all day long. But I was telling you, Angie, as you were listening, I said, man, that Roger McGuinn, his voice is rough. But of course, he's 82 years old. 82. And when you get to a certain age, you lose the timbre in your voice. You start losing your timbre.
Yeah.
And you gotta watch out for that timbre, of course, as you get older. And I see it my grandpa, of course. He's 99 years old. He just doesn't got the powerful voice he once had. My dad's still hanging in there, I think. What do you think?
Yeah.
Shout out to my dad, of course. Where are we getting my dad over here? You got a guest on this one here, but Sweetheart of the Rodeo live show. They played the whole album plus a couple other hits there, but it was pretty rough in a lot of spots. Really, Marty and the Superlatives were the bright spot for me. I wish Marty would have sang more, honestly. Roger McGuinn was really, really rough, but it's cool to celebrate 50th anniversary. It's always cool to celebrate that stuff while people are still around. So it is worth checking out. If you've never heard the Byrds and you haven't heard Sweetheart of the Rodeo, now most people have heard Turn, Turn, Turn and some of those Byrds classics. I don't really like those songs. I really don't like those songs. You do, though, right?
It's just nostalgic. It reminds me of my dad.
Reminds you of your dad running down the country roads and stuff like that. But I never liked that Bird stuff. But I did like the Clarence White stuff. I did like the Sweetheart of the Rodeo stuff. So worth checking out if you like a live album. And definitely check out Marty Stewart. I'm sure he'll be Album of the Week another time one of these days. So there it is. That's the Album of the Week, Sweetheart of the Rodeo Live Edition. 50th Anniversary Spectacular. All right, there it is, finishing up episode number 4. I can't believe we made it. How about episode number 5 next week? What do you think, Angie? The king of beers over here, old Budweiser herself, the king of beers. She's ready to have one after this, I guess. But should mention here, we got a question of the week to answer, and Angie's going to take over her role of question of the week. And if you want to be a question for the podcast, put it in the YouTube comments or email us at thekylepetersonshow@gmail.com, and Angie could read your question. But Angie, what's the question we got this week?
At Neil Kelly 8451 QOTH. What's that?
Question of the hour.
Question of the hour.
That's what I think. You correct me if I'm wrong.
At Kyle Peterson, I was wondering what camera phone model you use to film and what app you use to edit your videos.
Well, Angie, we're actually using Angie's phone for this. Well, Angie, what phone do you have?
I think I have a 13.
iPhone 13. Oh my gosh, time to upgrade her to a 16. And I actually just got a brand new iPhone and I have not used it yet. Haven't even turned it on. It's just such a headache trying to make this iPhone turn into that iPhone. I just hate doing all that. And that's where I usually turn my attention over to Angie, cell phone expert. Used to manage a cell phone store once upon a time. So maybe you can give us some stories from that once upon a time. You got any stories?
Yeah, I've got a few.
You got a few? Well, there we go. Tales from Retail from Angie from her cell phone day. We could do that. But that is the phone. And what do I edit my videos? I use iMovie. I am not Mr. Technical, that's for sure. So I just put it into iMovie and away we go from there.
Kids make fun of you. I don't know why.
Yeah, kids make
Apparently
fun of me.
That's lame and you need to use like CapCut
That's
or something.
what they say. Oh, CapCut's just the greatest thing. I'm like, this works for me. This works for me.
We're trying to get Elle to start editing.
It'd be nice if she would take over some of this, but I don't think she could do it. But it's just too many weird jokes and too many Ken Patera at McDonald's jokes that would just fly right over her head.
She wouldn't know where to clip stuff in.
She wouldn't.
That'd be the hard
That's the
part.
problem. That's the problem. But yeah, it is weird. to think that, you know, they're thinking CapCut and all this stuff. And I don't know. I know iMovie, but my problem is my brain, like I said, it's full. I have so many different processes I have to use in my day job.
So much useless knowledge.
There's so much stuff and systems and passwords I can't do anymore. I can't. I'm max capacity back here. And then I hit my head like we talked about.
And you're concussed.
And I lost a few things along the way. So hard times. But if you want to be the question of the week for Angie or for me, anything's on the table. Hit us up, thekylepetersonshow@gmail.com, or put it in the YouTube comments. And that is episode number 4. Angie, quite the wild one here. A lot of stuff going on. Episode 5 going to be very intriguing. Who is going to win the big bet? Who will be wearing what? Ooh, stay tuned for that next week. Hope those Mania predictions go well. We'll see. Hopefully everybody enjoys their WrestleMania weekend. If you do celebrate, I guess. And I guess as people are watching this right now, it's already happened. So that's the hard thing, because we're filming this a couple days before WrestleMania because I got to go to Nebraska. So we couldn't film it. So it's going to be the week after. So just play along. Just play along and pretend.
Just go with it.
Just pretend. And of course, got to thank DJC Collectibles for being the sponsor of this episode and this whole YouTube channel podcast thing we're doing right here. Thank you to DJC Collectibles. 8 off DJC to save yourself 8% off. Salt of the earth over there, those guys. Got to thank Gage Octane, of course, Midwest professional wrestling legend, the announcer of the show. Jeff George putting the music down for the show as well. Angie being a co-host. And of course, don't forget Patreon. Don't forget YouTube channel memberships. Social media, you know where to find me by now. And then, of course, the book, once again. I got to plug it. You know why?
No one else will.
No one else will. And I'm good at plugging things, I can tell you that. And then, the Kyle Peterson Show @gmail.com if you have any viewer mail. So for another week, Angie, anything?
Sorry if I cleared my throat a million times.
You did. Angie was...
I was feeling some drink. I'm feeling sick.
She's feeling sick. So don't get too close to me.
I'm trying not to
Don't get
clear
too
my
close
throat.
to me. So there it is for episode number 4. I'm Kyle. This is Angie. See you guys all real soon.
Well, are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?
We're going to the end of the line.